So, is there any difference between running a big half marathon with at least 9,000 runners or more and a typical 5K or 10K with 200, 300 people? Absolutely, and it's a lot more than just the distance, okay? Hi, this is Mike Gingrich. I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel. I'm the author of the 2 Runs a Week Half Marathon Training Program. And today I want to talk about specifically a large race. So we're talking about something where we have more than 9,000 runners in a half marathon. This can also apply to a marathon. And the differences you need to know if you've never run a big race like that. I'm going to reference my recent experience just a couple days ago running the Rock and Roll United Airlines half marathon in Washington, D.C. Okay, it's a great race. But there are a number of things that you want to be aware of when running a large race, okay? So first off is that you're gonna have to get there early, and they do have a bag check typically at all big races where they will give you a bag, or you should have got a bag in the expo the day before, where you can put in whatever you want, and it's good to do that, okay? So this was a March race, middle of March, so it's cold, okay? So the big thing about a big race is you're gonna be standing around waiting a long time, and you're not gonna be able to be inside or in a warm spot, all right? So you're gonna have to navigate your way there. I ended up taking a Lime bicycle ride, rented one of those electric bikes, and rode it in the final mile to the area, and I kept a number of layers on as long as I could, sweatpants even, and then I thought, okay, it's about, the race was going to start at 8, that's when the elites were supposed to take off. So I thought about 7:30, all right, I better check in, get my stuff, and then get to my staging area, all right? And so I checked it in, not a problem with that. They have whole systems for that. And then I went to my staging area, and I was in the 10th wave, and I realized when I got there that was the last wave in the race, okay? And I've run a number of large races. The largest is the United Airlines New York City half marathon. I've done that one twice, and that one they have a lot more security. So there was security to just get into the area, to put into a zone where you could be inside the race area, and then also after you checked your bag and went to your wave or stage area, then they checked you to make sure you were in the right one. So your bib number has a I can't like that when you drop the remote. Your bib number has a stage wave on it, and again, I was at the United Airlines here in Rock and Rollin' in DC. I was in the 10th wave. However, the Rock and Rollins, this one in particular, there was no one checking any of that type of thing. So it was just like, honor system on what wave, what area you were going to line up in, and hindsight says I should have used that to my advantage and moved up, because remember I said I was in the last wave. Okay, so a number of things on it. The day was about 40 degrees out at the beginning of this race here, and there was a breeze, so it felt colder than that. And so when we got close to the 8 o'clock, I thought, okay, hopefully within 10 minutes I'll get out, they'll get the waves going, that type of thing. However, it took much longer than that. So now remember, I had left and arrived at the location, probably at least an hour and 15 minutes before start time, thinking, hey, there's going to be 10,000 plus runners. I better take my time to get there. And it did take a little bit to navigate, but I found where my bag drop off was. I found where the wave, the shuttle, the stages were at, and that wasn't too bad there. And but again, so I've been outside with some layers on, but 30 minutes before 8, I took all that off, and I'm just in my running gear, and I'm in the stage. So it's 40 degrees. I'm in shorts, whatever, and at 8 o'clock, the elites went, and we just stood there. And like, I thought I heard something. Okay, these runners go. We moved up a little bit. Then it was 8:10. We moved up a little bit more, 8:15, 8:20. I can now kind of see where the starting line is, and I realized, oh my gosh, this is going to take a while, and I'm frozen. I had, my toes were going numb at that point in time, and there were people around me shivering, that type of thing. So another tip is that with the Rock and Roll, there was no security to prevent non-runners from mingling with the runners. So if I would have had somebody with me, I could have had a winter jacket on, sweatpants on until, I was within 5 minutes of running if I wanted to, because there was no one there that was checking who are runners, who are non-runners. Like in New York City, where it was very, security was much higher, and they only let runners in. They only let runners into their stage, their wave. Where here there was none of that. So again, hindsight, I would have waited longer. I would have had somebody with me to have my clothes, so I could have stayed warmer, and I would have moved up. Because here's what happened then. So we took off, and I figure with that many people, 10,000 plus, you're going to have a little bit of a slower start, and you're going to have to kind of weave a little bit left and right along the way. But being in the back wave, what I soon learned was that I was encountering the joggers and walkers from, wave stage 9, 8, 7, 6. So there was a lot of people moving slow all around me. And again, had a great time, great experience. But what occurred, and I began to see this already at mile 3, was that when I passed the Rock and Roll mile marker 3, and I looked at my watch, and I had my phone going as well, so I had 2 timers going, that I was at 3.2 miles already, okay? So all that weaving and bobbing did add up, all right? So by the time I got to the end of the race, I had realized that I was going to run definitely longer than 13.1 miles to get to the finish line because of the left and right that I'd been doing. So in the Rock and Roll, it was great most of the time because there was generally 3 to 4 lanes wide. We had, we were on some large roads, infrastructure there in the city, and so you could easily, navigate that. But again, you're always you're always with people. You're always that's nice. But as well, you're always being passed. There's just people left and right. Generally, you're going to run up onto some people. You have to move. I did have to pop up on the sidewalk a few times to try to get around people. And then there's a few times where we got down into tighter turns where things went down to actually 1 lane. And that was like a bottleneck because you'd have all these people kind of going down, and you're tight through there. Again, great experience, loved it, but there's flexibility, and so I want to offer these tips to you to think about what I would do differently going back to that race again. So number 1, I want to make sure I have someone with me at the start line who can take my heavy gear, and I would stay in the heavy gear as long as I can. I might not even check it in if I have somebody with me, but I didn't this time. And and then if they're not checking what my stage is, regardless of what it is, 10, I'm going to move up to 4. I'm going to try to make sure that I'm up where there are people like me that are running, that are trying to compete. And back to I have another video that's on trying to break 2 hours in the half marathon and a strategy for that. It's a 5, 5, and 5 strategy, what you do the first 5 miles, the second 5 miles, and the final 5K, 5, 5, and 5. And so my official time in this one was like 2 hours even and 32 seconds, all right? So didn't officially break 2 hours. However, okay, going back to what I said about running left and right, weaving and bobbing, and not being able to run the specific course efficiently because of all the people in there, I stopped my timer at 13.1 miles when I hadn't finished the official race yet, and I was sub 2 without a problem, because when I got done with the race, I had run 13.3 miles, so another 2/10 of a mile, almost a quarter mile further than the course, by needing to go left and right numerous times along the way. So I wanted to point that out to you for things to be aware of. If you've never run a big race with a lot of people and you got high hopes and you have high expectations and you want to get a certain time, you want to break that 2 hours, these are things to be aware of. And all races are different, so I can't even say that other rock and roll races are like this. I have run a rock and roll before in Philadelphia, and this, but again, this series is very different from the United Airlines half in New York City, for instance, where there was a lot more control and a lot more details on that one, on what is your pace, what do you expect to run, and then they put you in that kind of wave based on that. So this one was much more, no question like that. It was a free-for-all, and being in the back, I don't know why I was in the back. Was that just because I registered late enough and that's where my number got put in? I don't know, but that's what I learned. My tips would be: have somebody with you, wear clothes as long as you can, don't expect to start at 8, don't even get stressed when it's 8 and other people start running. If you're in some waves further back, it's going to take 5 minutes per wave to get out. You definitely, if there's no one checking you, I'm going to move up in waves so there's just less thousands of people in front of me. And on the course, I'm going to have to be aware of hopefully running with people my pace, and going to the left and right a little bit, but you want to be efficient on that. So there are spots, where we had both lanes of traffic, like a northbound and a southbound, and people would stay on the right side in the, lane we would have driven in, okay? But we were angling to the left, okay? So what I eventually started doing then, because I realized my distance was going so far over what the actual distance was that I went with a few people and we began to cut off those corners and go into the other lane that was closed, which was not our driving lane, which would have been, the oncoming traffic lane. The road was closed though, so it's not a problem, to run the most efficient route, point to point, and not taking wide turns, but cutting angles off to try to reduce my time, so to reduce my distance. So be aware of that in a big race with a lot of people. Because of that weaving left and right that you're going to have to do, you're going to gain distance. So you want to be efficient about your angles when there's point-to-point curves and turns and things like that. Get on the inside, don't go on the outside. Where there are those spots to kind of, do a rounded spot or a cut off that spot, cut it off, because you're not going to run short because of all the other back and forth that you're going to have to do. So just want to offer these tips to you. You need to stay warm. You need to stay hydrated. Don't stress about, being late for it. There's going to be a slow tiered start on those pieces, and then expect, some traffic, some log jams. You might want to look at the course, be aware of the course ahead of time, again, for elevations, but also for sharp turns, okay, and what that's going to mean, because there's things, and it's okay. This was, for recreation. I wasn't trying to aim for any age group times or anything like that. Just trying to, again, get out there and do a sub 2, which technically I did, not on the official race books. But the official race books say that I ran 13.1 as well, which is their start and finish, but not what my both GPSs that I was using to track myself said, because of all the back and forth I had to do. So hopefully that's helpful for you if this is going to be your first time running a half marathon, running a big race, again, where there are, excess of 9,000 people. This can apply probably if there's an excess of 4,000 people as well, but it's not going to apply and be that big of a deal in a smaller race with 500 people or something like that. So wanted to talk about big race details and what you need to know. about checking in, getting your stuff. So then afterwards you go back and your number allows you to retrieve your bag at the bag station there, so that's not a problem. But you can utilize those things, but also you might want to utilize some support of a help person along the way. So hopefully that's helpful. Again, my experience was with the Rock and Roll United Airlines Half Marathon in Washington, D.C. 2023. Great experience there. Highly recommend the race. I mean, you know, to be able to start near the Washington Monument, finish at the Capitol, see all kinds of sights in between, kind of the Rock Creek Park area and Georgetown, and you know, some just amazing things. Beautiful tour of the city this way. Highly recommend those. Highly recommend the United Airlines New York City Half Marathon as well. That's a point-to-point course, Brooklyn to Central Park, and you know, that's spectacular as well. So enjoy big races. But be aware of some of the differences of big races as well. Again, you know, if you've found some value here, subscribe to my YouTube channel to get more insights on running, health, and fitness. And we'll see you next time. This is Mike Gingrich, over and